It's said you're not a real leader until you stop giving answers. I've been looking at some work by a friend of mine, Mark Fritz. You can Google him and check him out on YouTube. Got some brilliant leadership stuff. And he talks about the importance of context. You are giving answers to your team and you're not being a real leader. And if they're relying on you to make decisions for them and tell them when things are right or wrong, you're babysitting. So that's what we're talking about today. The accounting profession is full of managers and pretending to be leaders. And smart people technically really got it all figured out, but they haven't yet figured out how to let go of stuff. You've got to be bringing people through. If you want capacity, if you want scale, if you want multiplicity, I can leverage in you, your brand, your efforts, then you've got to let go of being the answer to most of the questions that are going around. But I'm asking you, where do you spend most of your time? And if you're honest, you're probably stuck at levels 1 and 2, which is the what and the how. And so you're managing the how and the what, but the real influence comes from the why and the where. Let me explain. It's said you're not a real leader until you stop giving answers. I've been looking at some work by a friend of mine, Mark Fritz. You can Google him and check him out on YouTube. Got some brilliant leadership stuff. And he talks about the importance of context. So we're going to come on to this. But if your team still needs you for every decision, then you're not leading, you're babysitting. And most people are in leadership roles these days, whether you call it management or leadership, you've got a team around you. Even if you've got peer level things going on, there will be certain projects that you need to lead on, you are on point on. And it really speaks to your influence, your authority, if you can get this stuff right. So we're talking today about delegation and leadership and how to increase your influence through context. This is the Accounting Influencer Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Brown, and we share insights to give you everything you need in your accounting job to be more relevant, more informed, more authoritative, more influential. So let's go back to it. If you are giving answers to your team and you're not being a real leader, and if they're relying on you to make decisions for them and tell them when things are right or wrong, you're babysitting. So that's what we're talking about today. The accounting profession is full of managers and pretending to be leaders. And smart people technically really got it all figured out, but they haven't yet figured out how to let go of stuff. And they're more focused on the content than the context. This is what Mark Fritz talks about. So they pass down instructions. You may identify this with yourself or your bosses above you, that they check the numbers, they delegate tasks, but they're not really providing the one thing that teams actually need to perform without them, which is context. We hear so much these days about how accounting professionals are so busy, so overwhelmed. Increased client expectations, increased complexity of tax regulation and all the other things you do. And then you've got to master technology and AI. Then you've got to navigate the political landscape with private equity and mergers and acquisitions and hybrid working and everything else. It is complex. I understand that. There's a lot going on, but there's a lot more that we need to do. So how can we be better at leading? Instead of just passing down instructions, let's be more intentional with the context. So if content is what people do, then context is the why they do it and the where they do it. And if your people don't understand the why and the where, then they can't act without you. So we're going to dip into this a little bit, and I'll share some stuff that Mark has shared with me. Your day generally is probably going to be managing your inbox, which some say is prioritizing the needs of others and prioritizing what's on other people's to-do lists and other people's goal lists, probably. But you've got check-ins, you've got questions that you're addressing, you've got issues you're dealing with, you've got approvals, escalations, delays, challenges you've got to deal with. And we create a culture, and this is not just accountants, this is people in business generally, entrepreneurs particularly, this culture where you are the bottleneck. Things stop at you and it actually kills your influence. Because you might think you're meaningful and it's giving you purpose and validation. However, it's not proper influence. You might have some sway and authority within the firm because a lot of power rests in your hands. But where have you got the time to do the other things that really builds influence and be more intentional? So let me go through these levels of leadership in an accounting firm. We can think of it in 5 levels. The first is the how, and this is how to do the job. Some call it micromanagement. But the how is what drives most tasks and most projects. Here's how you do it. Then level 2 would be the what. So here's the result we need. It's slightly better. It's still reactive, but you're talking about the what, the outcome. Then level 3 is the who. So this is who owns it. And we're talking here about delegation. So delegation is where you pass things on. Then level 4 is the where. So this is where we are heading. It's more strategic, isn't it? It's heads up and looking around rather than head down, tactical. Here's me, my day, my project. And then level 5 will be the why. And this is why it matters. It's purpose driven. I don't necessarily agree with everything that Simon Sinek says, but he's a very smart guy, and his power of why whole concept is very future led. So you might want to look at that. But I'm asking you, where do you spend most of your time? And if you're honest, you're probably stuck at levels 1 and 2, which is the what and the how. And so you're managing the how and the what, but the real influence comes from the why and the where. Let me explain. We're trying to grow other leaders and empower other people here. We're trying to impart responsibility to them, impart power to them. And the good leaders grow other leaders. They don't necessarily grow followers. This is why I see a few accounting leaders manage and lead with their ego, because they want to be that center of attention. They want to be the conduit through which everyone goes. They want to hold that power. But really, is that leadership? Is that bringing through new leaders? Is that empowering others? Is that giving them responsibilities? Maybe not. So as a quick example, let's say your tax team is prepping for a year-end planning meeting with a client. So a manager that's content-driven around the how and the what, they will be saying things like, okay, we've got this meeting coming up. Let's review last year's file and maybe make some projections for the year going forward. Now, it's useful, but invites a pile of follow-up questions and a lot of back and forth, of which you, or the leader or the manager, are going to have to address all of that stuff. So a context-driven leader, as opposed to a content-driven leader, would say something like, okay, our goal is to help this client feel totally in control of their tax position. We want to walk out of there. We want them to walk out of there too, with clarity, with a plan, with confidence that we are trusted, we know what we're doing, and we are the peer of the buyer, we're the advisor of the client. Then you would ask your team, what recommendations can we make that show that we're thinking 2 years ahead and not just this quarter or not just last year? So we're giving a bit more context. We've framed why this matters and where we're heading. So that's more of the where and the why. So we're thinking context. And when you do that with your people, they make smarter choices. They take some responsibility. They feel empowered. They don't need your sign off on every little detail, and they're probably not coming back and forth to you with questions. Micromanagers burn out. We hear a lot about mental health, and we talk about it on the show. You've got to get yourself right, and then you're in a stronger position to manage and lead others and have more influence. But you can't scale if you're micromanaging. It's comforting. There's a certain comfort blanket within micromanaging because you feel meaningful, you feel busy, you feel needed, but it doesn't scale. If you want to be better with your time, you need to be better at managing and delegating. The truth that most accounting firm leaders won't admit is that we micromanage because we don't trust our people or trust ourselves. There's a lot about trust in the news at the moment, with particularly the return to office mandate. Why is that going on? Why are owners, leaders, senior leadership teams calling their people back to the office? It might be expensive commercial real estate that needs filling, but is it a control, and is it a power thing, and is it a trust thing? So we've talked about that in other episodes. Often it's fear when people micromanage. There's a fear element, there's an ego element, there's wanting to feel important and validated. Sometimes it's a belief, a genuine belief, because you are the boss, because it stops at you, that nobody can do the job as well as you. I had a great quote on delegation in that if people can do the job 80% as well as you, then you shouldn't be doing it. Now, I get with accounting, it's black and white, it's 100% right or it's not right. I understand you're in the business of risk mitigation as an accounting professional. However, there are lots of jobs that don't require that binary yes, no, black, white answer. So getting over that belief that nobody can do it as well as you, you're probably right, but there's lots of things that nobody can do as well as you. That's why you're in charge. So you've got to get over that, because if you want influence, you've got to have succession. You've got to be bringing people through. If you want capacity, if you want scale, if you want multiplicity, if you like, and leveraging you, your brand, your efforts, then you've got to let go of being the answer to most of the questions that are going around. So you're trying to build a team that can think, decide, and act for themselves without needing your approval. And to do that, we've got to give them this missing piece of the jigsaw, which is context. So let's get practical for a moment with context. You're in a firm, you've got clients' deadlines, you've got people moving in and out, up and down. And here's something you can actually do to shift from content-led in your leadership approach to context-led. So the first thing with meetings, we could talk such a lot about meetings. There's been really great things written about meetings, effective meetings. But what if we started each meeting with why this matters? What if before we dived into tax updates and audit prep or work in progress reviews, we said something like, let's get clear on what success looks like for this meeting today. Let's be clear on our outcomes for today. Let's be clear on why we're all here. We often don't do that, do we? We set a meeting agenda, but it doesn't give a clear outcome for the meeting or something visionary. So start with why things matter. Then you might follow up with the purpose of this audit isn't just compliance. We're here doing this to strengthen our client relationship by making them feel safe and future ready and comfortable in our hands, something like that. Or you might say our real goal today isn't just to clear the work in progress, where we want to improve lockup, we want to improve our firm's cash flow story, we want to look stronger going into partner planning. Now, I'm not an accountant. I'm a former high school math teacher. I'm a part qualified accountant, so forgive me if the language isn't 100% correct, but you get the idea. Our real goal today isn't X, it's actually Y. So let's move from content to context. It reframes the work, it gives meaning, and it helps the junior people and the senior people around you see beyond the task, beyond the project to the bigger picture. Another application here might be to replace what should I do with what's you're thinking. So next time someone comes to you with a problem, if you're trying to solve it, you'd be thinking to yourself, what can I do here? How can I put this right? How can I solve this for them? Instead, what if you ask them, well, walk me through your thinking? Or what's your evidence for that? Or what would you do if I wasn't here? Or what does good look like to you? Or what would be a really good outcome here? Or how might we go about this? So you put in that thinking into them. And if their thinking's off, we don't just correct them. We could give some examples, really. We might say, well, let me tell you what worked with another client last quarter, or let me share with you what I've seen work in the past, or let me give you an example of something someone else in the team suggested that might work for you. So you're just correcting the thinking. And this works because it forces ownership. That's the word, isn't it? Ownership, taking responsibility. You're coaching, you're not rescuing, you're not doing it for them, and you're helping them think more in the principles and the whys and not just the whats and the scripts and the right things to do. Third thing you might think about is use the context when you're delegating. So the next time you're handing off a task, here's a three-step framing method. You're saying, number one, here's what we're trying to achieve here. Number two, here's why it matters to the client or our firm or the other stakeholders that are involved. And number three, here's what good looks like. Or here's how we'll know when we hit it. So I'll say those again. If we're framing more with context and the whys and the wheres, we're saying, here's what we're trying to achieve, number one. Number two, here's why it matters to the client or our firm or the stakeholder. Number three, here's what good looks like. Here's what we're trying to get to. Here's how we'll know when we've hit this and got this right. So you might say for a proposal, we're trying to win this advisory engagement with a $100,000 client. It matters because it positions us to grow into a more strategic role with this very good client of ours. And good looks like a proposal that's concise. It's focused on outcomes. It's tailored to their board level goals. It speaks to the senior level of management. That's a script. It works because it gives direction, it gives purpose, and it gives standards without dictating or divulging the micro method and the whole methodology. It's delegation with some vision. It's a future focused handoff. So context works. Think a little bit more about your influence and your empowerment and how people will start to see you differently if you can provide context. And here's a little tip that Mark shared with me too. If you don't have a who, then the who is you. If you're not handing this off to people, if you've not got people you can get to do this for you, then the who is you. In other words, you are doing all the doing. If you want to spend more time on strategic thinking, on business development, on speaking, on thought leadership, on creating content, on doing voluntary work or playing golf or looking after your kids, whatever you need to do, then you need to start being the person that fixes everything. You need to stop being the hub in the middle of the wheel and all the spokes lead to you, because that's not scalable. You can never get out of that trap. So your job is to grow people who get it for themselves. So you see where we're heading. We care about the why. We can make decisions without constantly requiring your input. And you're not necessarily stepping away and dusting down your hands and saying it's all you, I'm not helping. You're just stepping back a little and giving them room to grow. So closing thought, context drives culture, it drives influence, and it's not just about efficiency, it's about some accountability, some growth, some coaching, some mentoring, some not holding people's hands, but letting go of their hands. Almost like if you're a parent and you've taught your child to ride a bicycle, you've got to let go of the saddle at some point and let them go. So when people in your firm understand context, particularly your team, the people you're working with, your colleagues, they make better decisions. They take more ownership. They stop waiting. They stop treating you as the bottleneck, and they act. And hopefully you're not blaming them on things that they get wrong if they're using some initiative. But your job is not a doer or a permission granter. Your job is a multiplier. You're leading, you're influencing, and leading is influencing, isn't it? If you're external and building a personal brand, then you're leading thoughts. That's what a thought leader is. So this is not just inside your firm, this is external too. So context creates influence. And the good news is it's coachable, it's teachable, it's a skill that you can build if you can be more intentional. So your challenge as we close up this episode of the Accounting Influencers podcast is, before your next meeting or project or one-to-one or conversation, don't just share the what, but think about the why and the where. Give them a reason to care, to give them a reason to get involved, give them a picture of success or some kind of future focused goal. You don't need to be the smartest in the room. You just need to be the clearest. And you just need to let go a little bit. If you want to be more influential, I have a service that I work with accounting owners and leaders to help them create thought leadership by interviewing them once a month. And we turn that into thought leadership pieces and video snippets that you put out on your social channels and your firm's website to talk about the great stuff you're doing and amplify your domain expertise and create PR opportunities and tell great stories about the wonderful things that you're doing. So it's a really good way to create lots of thought leadership, because creating content and putting your thoughts out there is not easy. So reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want to talk about that. In the meantime, let's be more influential by thinking about context and what goes around the what than just thinking about content, which is the what and the how. Have a great day. We'll see you next time on the Accounting Influencers podcast.